Usually when society talks about getting wealthy, there's this underlying assumption that you just need to get hit by a lucky thunderbolt.
Right, like it's purely magic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You buy the right crypto at the perfect second, or you guess the right stock, or maybe you just get tapped on the shoulder by the right executive, and boom, the universe hands you a giant check.
And honestly, that just creates this massive sense of helplessness.
Yeah.
We're basically conditioned to believe it's either blind, dumb luck, or it's, grinding yourself to dust for 40 years. And we tend to just accept that those are the only two paths available to us.
But then you step into the world of deterministic wealth creation, and suddenly that whole lottery ticket mentality gets thrown right out the window. We're looking at a landscape that is less about rolling the dice and much, much more about architectural engineering.
Oh, absolutely. It is the absolute definition of building a wealth engine from the ground up, deliberately, systematically, and without relying on someone else to pick you.
And that is exactly our mission for today's deep dive. Welcome. We are unpacking the ultimate framework for creating wealth deterministically, meaning basically how to get rich without just crossing your fingers and hoping for the best.
Yeah, leaving luck out of the equation.
Right. Now, you said it's a totally fascinating stack of sources for this one. Our primary guide today is a massive 3.5-hour transcript breaking down the famous principles of Naval Ravikant. It is a total goldmine of foundational thinking.
It really is. The density of ideas in there is just wild.
But I do have to mention, one of the links you sent us was literally a 404 error page. Just a complete dead end.
Which is kind of hilarious.
It is. And honestly, it's actually the perfect metaphor for the traditional career advice we are about to dismantle today. So we'll safely toss that broken link and focus entirely on this massive framework.
Good call.
Before we can build this wealth engine, though, we have to look in the mirror and figure out what we're actually trying to build. Because most of us are aggressively playing the completely wrong game.
Yeah, we really are. We spend our entire lives conflating three very different concepts: wealth, money, and status.
And they get tangled up all the time.
Exactly. And if you don't separate them in your mind, you will inevitably end up chasing the wrong one and wondering why you still feel so trapped.
Okay, let's unpack this.
So let's isolate wealth first. Wealth is not a giant pile of cash sitting in a checking account.
Right.
Wealth is defined as assets that earn while you sleep.
While you sleep. That's the key.
Right. It's the computer program running at night serving customers. It's the automated logistics software licensing your API. It's a business or, an investment portfolio that generates value entirely independent of your direct hourly labor.
And the ultimate purpose of this wealth isn't to buy a fleet of Ferraris or, impress your neighbors.
No, not at all. The real purpose of wealth is freedom. It's the absolute sovereignty to simply not wake up at 7 a.m. to commute in traffic to a soulless job.
Because if wealth is the engine that earns while you sleep, then what is money? We use those two words interchangeably all the time, but they clearly aren't the same thing.
They aren't. Money is just the vehicle we use to transfer that wealth. It's a social IOU.
An IOU?
Yeah, when you create value for society essentially says, thank you, you provided value to us in the past. Here is a reliable credit you can use to extract value in the future. Money is just the accounting system for wealth. It's the tape measure, not the house itself.
Wow, that's a great way to put it. And treating the tape measure like it's the actual house is how people end up falling into the third concept, which is the ultimate trap, right? Status.
Yes. Status is entirely different, and it is incredibly dangerous. It's an evolutionary zero-sum game that traces all the way back to our days living in monkey tribes.
Monkey tribes. Love that.
Well, it's true. Status is purely hierarchical. Who is number one? Who is number two? By definition, for someone to move up to the number 2 slot, the current number 2 has to be violently pushed down to number 3. It is inherently combative.
I feel like status is like a seesaw. For me to go up, you literally have to hit the dirt.
Exactly.
But wealth creation is a positive sum game. It's like a potluck dinner. The more people who bring a dish, the bigger the feast gets for everybody.
I like that.
Yeah. If I build a house, it doesn't stop you from building a house. In fact, the more houses we build, the better our foundation-laying technology gets, and the cheaper it is for everyone else to have a house down the line.
Which perfectly illustrates why a middle-class citizen in a modern, developed country is functionally wealthier than, say, King Louis XIV of France centuries ago.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because of the technology.
Right. The king had massive status, but he didn't have antibiotics or indoor plumbing or global communication. Those things exist because of the positive sum wealth creation of technology and science.
That makes so much sense.
And there's a really provocative insight here regarding status. The people who loudly virtue signal, the ones who constantly claim that making money is evil or that entrepreneurs are inherently greedy, they're usually just playing a sophisticated status game themselves.
Wait, really? They're playing the status game by attacking wealth.
Yeah. They are trying to elevate their own moral standing in the eyes of the tribe by attacking the enterprise of wealth creation.
That is a massive mindset shift. You have to consciously opt out of those zero-sum status games, which are, frankly, designed to make you angry and resentful anyway.
Exactly.
And you have to focus entirely on the positive-sum game of building wealth. So, okay, we know we want wealth. We want the positive-sum game that buys us sovereignty over our own time.
Yeah.
But how do we get it without relying on that lottery ticket we talked about earlier?
This is where the framework introduces this wild concept. You have to mathematically engineer your own luck.
Which sounds like a total oxymoron. Engineering luck.
It does, but you can actually categorize luck into 4 distinct types. The first is blind luck. That's the lottery ticket. Fortune, fate, and inheritance, totally out of your control.
Right.
The second is hustle luck. This is the brute force method. You are just running around, generating massive energy, trying a million different side hustles, networking endlessly, and eventually, through sheer kinetic motion, you stir the pot enough that something lucky pops out.
Fortune favors the bold.
Yeah.
You're just creating a massive surface area for something good to stick to.
Precisely. And that hustle phase eventually evolves into the third type, which is prepared mind luck. This is where you become so highly skilled and sensitive to a specific field that you spot a lucky break that everyone else completely misses.
Like you've trained your pattern recognition.
Exactly. But the fourth type, this is the holy grail. This is character or destiny luck.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Character luck. I was totally fascinated by how this breaks down in the transcript. We all understand blind luck, but this idea of building a gravitational pull for opportunities, it completely shifted my perspective.
It really changes everything. It's when you build a completely unique character, a specific brand and skill set, to the point where luck specifically seeks you out.
Okay, give us the analogy.
The analogy used here is a deep sea diver. Imagine you are known globally as the best, most daring deep sea diver in the world. You've spent decades building that reputation.
Okay, I'm the best diver.
Right. Then someone else, by pure blind luck, finds a sunken treasure ship off the coast, but they can't reach it. What happens?
He has to call me.
Exactly. Their blind luck automatically becomes your destiny luck. They have no choice but to come to you to extract it, and they have to give you half the treasure. You engineered that luck by building a unique character that attracted the opportunity.
And the mechanism for building that character is what is called specific knowledge. This is knowledge that literally cannot be taught in a standardized school setting.
Right, because if you think about it, if a skill can be easily taught in a classroom, someone else can be trained to do it.
And if they can be trained to do it, eventually a machine will be trained to replace both of you.
Yes. If you can be easily trained, you can be easily replaced. Society only has to pay you the absolute bare minimum market rate to get that job done.
So what exactly is specific knowledge then?
Specific knowledge is found by intensely pursuing your innate talents and your genuine, weird curiosities. It's the stuff that feels like absolute play to you, but looks like grueling work to everyone else.
That's such a good distinction.
And the fundamental rule for finding it is escape competition through authenticity. No one in the world can compete with you on being you.
But wait, I have to push back here. Isn't telling the listener to just be themselves and follow their passions potentially terrible career advice?
How so?
Well, what if being themselves means they are genuinely passionate about, juggling on a unicycle or analyzing 14th century pottery? How does escaping competition through authenticity actually create wealth if literally nobody wants to buy what you're doing?
What's fascinating here is how this framework resolves that exact tension. Because you're right, it's not just about being yourself in a vacuum. It's not a license to indulge in unmarketable hobbies.
Right.
The golden rule of entrepreneurship presented here is finding the exact intersection between being deeply authentic to yourself and giving society what it wants, but does not yet know how to get at scale.
Oh, finding the unscaled demand.
Exactly. Society always wants new things. Think about someone who loves supply chain logistics and is also weirdly obsessed with the intricacies of 3D printing.
Okay, very niche.
Highly specific. It feels like play to them. Now, society doesn't know it wants that specific person, but society desperately wants faster, localized, automated manufacturing. If that person builds an API that connects global e-commerce stores directly to local 3D printers, they have found the intersection.
They took their weird, authentic obsession and aligned it with a latent societal demand.
Exactly.
But let's say you found that perfect niche. You've got the specific knowledge. If you're still delivering that value hour by hour, you've just built yourself a slightly more enjoyable prison. I mean, you are completely trapped by the clock.
Oh, the time trap is the great equalizer. You will never, ever get rich renting out your time.
Never.
Even if you are a highly paid corporate lawyer billing $1,000 an hour, your inputs are still tightly tied to your outputs. If you aren't physically putting in the hour, reading the contract, you aren't getting paid. You aren't earning while you sleep.
So how do you break the trap?
To break that trap, you must own equity. You have to own a piece of a business or a product.
And to get that equity, you must embrace accountability.
Yeah.
You have to take risks under your own name.
Yes.
Society overwhelmingly rewards the people who put their necks on the line. I mean, when you put your name on a project, when you take the public blame for the failure, you also capture the equity and the immense upside for the success.
Accountability is the absolute prerequisite for leverage. And leverage is simply the tool we use to scale our efforts beyond our own two hands.
Right, because historically, humanity only had two forms of leverage. The oldest is labor other humans working for you.
Managing people.
Yeah.
Navigating office politics.
Right, which is incredibly messy, requires immense leadership, and is highly competitive.
And society actually overvalues labor leverage because our monkey brains evolved to understand the idea of a tribe leader managing a group. It looks impressive.
It feels like status.
Exactly. The second old form of leverage is capital money. It's highly effective, but it requires permission. Somebody rich has to trust you enough to give you their money to manage, invest, or build with.
But the new leverage, oh man, this completely changes the physics of wealth. Code and media, podcasts, YouTube algorithms, niche sauce software.
A new frontier.
It is, because it is entirely permissionless. You do not need a venture capitalist's approval to write a piece of code, and you don't need a TV executive's permission to record a video.
No gatekeepers.
None. And the absolute magic of code and media is that they have a zero marginal cost of reproduction.
They scale infinitely. Think about it. The robot army revolution that everyone is sitting around waiting for, it has already happened.
They're already here.
They really are.
Yep.
The robots are just packed in server farms, generating heat, quietly waiting for our commands. When you write code or create evergreen media, you are commanding an army of robots to work for you while you sleep.
I want to linger on this because it shifts everything. Renting your time is basically like carrying buckets of water from a river to a village. You get paid a predictable amount per bucket. It's a comforting 1-to-1 ratio.
Cheap, but limited.
Exactly. But building code or media leverage is like spending your time building a massive pipeline. And the psychological toll of building a pipeline is brutal.
Oh, it's exhausting.
It makes way longer. You don't get paid a single dime for months or years. Everyone else is collecting their daily bucket paycheck while you are in the mud fitting pipes. And you have to take massive accountability if the pipe bursts. But eventually, you turn the valve and it pumps water while you sleep. You've commanded the server farm robots to do the carrying for you.
And that psychological toll is exactly why so few people actually build the pipeline. But, it also introduces a massive vulnerability.
What's that?
Because if you have an infinite pipeline, if you have this massive permissionless leverage of code and media, the speed of the water completely ceases to matter if the pipe is pointed in the wrong direction.
Yes. If you scale a bad decision infinitely, you just hit the iceberg faster.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the ultimate multiplier, judgment.
In an age of near infinite leverage, judgment becomes the most critical, irreplaceable skill of all.
How so?
Think of it like steering a ship. If you are steering a tiny wooden rowboat, your judgment doesn't matter that much. You can just out-paddle your navigational mistakes.
Sure.
But if you are steering a massive ocean liner with $100 billion of cargo like Warren Buffett, for example, your judgment is everything. If Warren Buffett is right just 10% more often than the next investor, that tiny fractional edge applied to massive capital leverage is worth billions of dollars. Society will pay you outlandishly for that calibrated judgment.
So how do we actually calibrate that judgment? I mean, in a world filled with constant noise and bad advice, How do we fix our compass so we know which way to point the pipeline?
By exclusively playing long-term games with long-term people.
It all comes back to compound interest, doesn't it?
It always does. Everything in life that brings massive, outsized returns, wealth, deep relationships, profound knowledge, it all comes from compound interest.
Right.
In a short-term game, everyone is just aggressively arguing over how to cut up a single static pie. But in a long-term game, people are working together, building trust over decades to bake the biggest pie possible.
And to build great judgment and utilize leverage, you must partner with the right people. You need a baseline checklist that you absolutely cannot compromise on.
Intelligence, energy, and integrity.
Right. You need people with high intelligence, high energy, and above all, high integrity. High integrity is the absolute filter.
It has to be.
Because without it, a highly intelligent, high-energy person is just a remarkably efficient crook who is eventually going to outsmart and outwork you to steal your share of the pipeline.
It's so true. And it's also vital to aggressively avoid cynics and pessimists.
Oh, yeah.
Their beliefs are completely self-fulfilling. If they fundamentally believe a project won't work, they will subconsciously ensure it fails just to prove themselves right. You need rational optimists.
Rational optimists. I love that.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, building that high-level judgment requires a fundamental shift in how you view your place in any economic system. The foundational idea here is a classic microeconomic concept, the principal-agent problem.
The owner versus the employee. But how does understanding that actually help someone build wealth?
Well, the principal is the owner. The agent is the employee hired by the owner. The problem is that their incentives are rarely, if ever, aligned.
Right, they want different things.
Exactly. The agent usually wants what's easiest, what covers their own risk, or, what makes them look best for their next promotion. The principal, however, wants what's best for the long-term compounding value of the business.
Okay, I see where this is going.
If you want to build wealth and hone your judgment, you have to route around this problem internally. Even if you are currently an employee, the absolute best thing you can do for your career trajectory is to think and act like a principal.
And what does that look like in practice? Because a lot of people here act like an owner and think it just means working unpaid overtime.
It's not about unpaid overtime. It's about taking psychological ownership of outcomes. If you're managing a Q4 budget, an agent just spends the surplus on unnecessary software so their budget doesn't get slashed next year.
Right, the classic corporate move.
Exactly. A principal treats every single dollar like it's coming out of their own personal bank account. They propose structural cost-saving measures that improve the company's actual bottom line. They take the blame when a vendor fails instead of saying, well, it wasn't my department. If you consistently make decisions as if your own money and reputation are on the line, it is only a matter of time before society recognizes that judgment and you actually become an owner.
And a huge part of thinking like an owner is brutally, ruthlessly valuing your own cognitive time. This is honestly one of my favorite takeaways from the transcript.
Yeah.
You have to set an aspirational hourly rate for yourself. Something completely absurd, like $5,000 an hour.
It sounds deeply arrogant at first, but the psychological effect of doing that is profound.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think about your own weekend. Are you spending 2 hours driving across town and arguing with a cashier to return a $40 broken blender?
Hopefully not.
Right. If your time is truly worth $5,000 an hour, you are literally bankrupting your own cognitive energy over plastic blades. Throw the blender in the trash.
Just toss it.
If you can outsource a menial task for less than your aspirational hourly rate, you outsource it without hesitation. You have to clear out the mental clutter to make room for high-leverage decisions, the judgment calls that actually move the needle.
You cannot effectively steer the ocean liner if you are down in the galleys screaming about the price of a mop.
Exactly.
It requires extreme discipline to protect your time and your cognitive load because inspiration is highly perishable.
Perishable.
Yeah. When you are struck with a brilliant paradigm-shifting idea for your code or your media or your business, you need the free time and the unburdened mind to act on it immediately. If your calendar is choked with low-value $15 an hour obligations, that inspiration will just wither and die.
So what does this all mean for you? If we synthesize all these mechanics, specific knowledge, accountability, infinite leverage, and calibrated judgment, it basically boils down to 2 words: productize yourself.
Productize yourself.
Yourself is your specific knowledge, your authentic obsessions, your absolute accountability. Productize is the leverage, the zero marginal cost code or media that scales your unique perspective to the world. You're taking your unique identity and stamping it out a million times.
But, we also need a serious reality check here.
Always good.
The underlying truth of all this is that getting rich deterministically takes a long time. It is a long, highly indeterminate journey of applying your specific knowledge with leverage over decades.
It's not a get-rich-quick scheme.
Definitely not. And more importantly, when you do finally arrive at that wealth, you realize a sobering truth. Money only solves your money problems.
Yeah.
It removes the existential stress of paying rent. It buys you the freedom to aggressively control your calendar, but it fundamentally will not change who you are inside.
Yeah, that concept is inescapable. A calm mind, a fit body, and a house full of love cannot be bought. They must be earned.
Very true.
The permissionless leverage and the compound judgment can get you the wealth engine, but your internal peace is a completely different architectural project.
It's a reminder that while the mechanics of wealth creation can be systematically engineered, your internal fulfillment cannot be outsourced to a server farm of robots.
It really is.
Okay.
Which leads me to one final thought for you to chew on before we go.
Let's hear it.
Throughout this deep dive, we've talked about how code and media are the ultimate forms of permissionless leverage, because they have a zero marginal cost of reproduction.
Yeah.
You write the software once, it runs forever.
Right.
But what happens to our value when artificial intelligence completely commoditizes the creation of that very code and media? If the robot army can not only execute the code, but perfectly write the code and generate the media for absolutely free, does the highest form of leverage eventually loop back around?
Oh, wow.
Does it return to something intensely, uniquely human-like community building, pure philosophical judgment, and the sheer force of human authenticity?
That raises a massive question about the future of specific knowledge.
Yeah.
As the frontier of technology races forward, our definition of what is uniquely us will have to evolve right alongside it.
It's a completely new blueprint we are all going to have to figure out. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the games you're playing, keep fiercely protecting your time, and start building your own luck. We'll catch you next time.